Hello everyone, welcome on in. It's the second Betting Weekly game bet match of the new week, and we are looking ahead to tomorrow's action in Indian Wells. I'm Nigel Seeley, your host. You're watching Betting Weekly game bet match on the Betting Weekly studios. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow all our content. Be alerted, hitting the bell, be alerted every time any bit of content drops. Approaching 8,000 subscribers and almost 1 million views, and with your help we'll do that over the weekend. Enough about that. Joining me to look ahead to tomorrow's matches over in Indian Wells is our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It is I was just about to say Roy Giovanni. It is Sean Calvert. Good afternoon to you, Sean, or good morning where you are. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. It's 9 a.m. here. Definitely not Rory. He's the nicest man in sports betting. I'm probably about the sixth nicest or something, probably.
Where would I be?
You're probably about the same as me. You're probably top five.
Thanks. Oh, thanks. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, that's appreciation for the bonuses. It was a tough day yesterday, Sean, wasn't it? I mean, the people on the show on, I'm losing track of the days because we're all in a different time. When did we record the first show? Tuesday.
Yes.
If you hadn't watched it, we gave 4 bets on the first round match. All 3 of the bets were all trading around about -$4. One of them even trading -$8. All won the first set, I believe, or did looking really good. And then they lost. They lost from winning positions, which was incredible. And we had a winner with Mute as well, though. So we went 1 and 3.
He nearly messed it up as well.
Yeah. But it was a strange. And one thing I noticed about it, a lot of games were going long last night. A lot of matches going into 3 sets. A lot of matches were in and out. A lot of trading opportunities. I don't know if you noticed that, the scores, but it was a frustrating day, wasn't it?
It's worse when you're there, isn't it? You know, because if you're at home and stuff's happening like that, there's other things that going on that can kind of distract you. But when you're courtside, sat there watching it and moving between courts like I was, moving between the Kobayashi match and then the Vukic match and then the Kecmanovic match started, and it was all going on at the same time. So I had to keep moving. They were all. Yeah, it was 1-2 on official picks, wasn't it? The Vukic one was a lean, I think. I mean they were all backed in, weren't they? I mean, Vukic and Kecmanovic started as decent favourites from originally being underdogs. Mute, I think he started more or less joint favourite.
He went favourite. He was favourite.
He went favourite.
Minus 110.
So they were, and even Kobayashi, he moved in quite a bit as well. He was just a slight bit of plus money by the time it started. So that's what I try and do. You know, I think we got the good value there. You can't really legislate for Vukic failing to see it out from 4-2 up in the final set. Kecmanovic was ridiculous, really. Won the first set against an injured Griekspoor and then stopped playing. Just thought that Griekspoor would kind of just fade away, which obviously he didn't do, and he came back and won it in the end. Mute almost messed it up as well. I think he was about -$10 in play after the first set. I think he had 15 breakpoint chances, Mute, and I think he took about 3 or 4 of them. And on the breakpoints against him, he didn't save any. I think he saved 1 out of the 3 or 4 that he had against him. So he was really struggling to get those big points over the line. I think I'd have cried if Mute hadn't won that as well. I was watching that in a Mexican restaurant last night. Nothing went my way yesterday. Even the card machine stopped working in the Mexican restaurant. So I had to wait another 25 minutes after I'd finished eating to pay because their card machine wasn't working. And
that old card machine trick. The old card machine trick
me.
I've seen.
It's everywhere I go. And then I tried to check into this hotel. There was a problem with that because it's one of those contactless. It's very boutiquey here. It's very arty and boutiquey. It's all modern. It's totally contactless check-in, but they didn't send me any of the codes, or I didn't receive any of the codes. So I then had to have this peculiar conversation with the maintenance man, which lasted about half an hour before he had to come. He had to drive onto site to let me in. Yeah, the whole thing was a bit of a shambles yesterday. It was not a very pleasant day, but at least Mute finished it off. It didn't end too badly in the end, I suppose.
One thing I was looking at, I said it at the top of the show, there were 16 matches yesterday on the men's draw. 10 of them, or 17 matches if you included the Zhang Diallo match, which it was delayed. But 11 of them went into a final set. And of the 16 matches, 14 of them went over on the totals yesterday.
It's quite unusual for Indian Wells, that.
I mean, is that something in the surface that we were looking at? Maybe it's more of a sort of, a slower clay court style where you would get games there. I don't really know. I just looked at it. I mean, it could be quicker. I don't know if there's anything that you looked into. But I was watching the matches last night. They were going on for hours. They were going into 3 sets. So many matches. Many tie breaks as well.
Yeah, which you wouldn't expect. I think they're not what you would call a normal tie break match where everyone holds and it's a tiebreak. That's what I would call like a normal tiebreak match. These were ones that ended up being tiebreaks, although there were sort of 3 or 4 breaks each in them. I think I was perfectly correct on the conditions. I think it's exactly the same, and that was backed up with what I saw this morning with what Alexander Zverev said. He said he hit for 4 days. He had 4 days of hitting on the courts, and he didn't even notice that the surface had been changed. Someone told him afterwards, and he had no idea because it is so similar. It's as I said. You don't notice the difference when you're watching the matches. You could be watching matches from last year or any of the years previously because it does look exactly the same. I think Medvedev said it was even slower, but he thinks everything's slow, but he said it was even slower than it was before. If you look at the stats of qualifying, actually, I know qualifying stats aren't, they're not always representative of what's going to happen in the main draw, but after the 36 matches in qualies, there was only 72% holds of serve and 67% first serve points won, which is almost clay-like. It is clay-like, in fact, in terms of those statistics. That'll probably go up as the main draw goes on and we've got more powerful players or whatever, but it's difficult conditions to play. And if you watch from behind the baseline, it's why I always like watching from behind the baseline. You can see the ball moving in the air from side to side much more than you would in a normal event. You've got this thin desert air, you've got the gusts of wind that come up. The conditions change so quickly here. It can be cloudy and, a bit chilly. 20 minutes later, it's boiling hot. Then the wind picks up and the clouds come in again. It's very, very difficult conditions. And if we're talking about overs, that's in the first round. That's probably indicative of players really struggling to get a handle on the conditions and struggling for consistency in what are very difficult playing conditions.
Yeah, 17 matches yesterday, and only 2 of them went under 22 games, which I thought was amazing, really. Anyway, for like a first round when you've got big, heavy favourites. Anyway, we've got 4 matches we are going to discuss tomorrow. There is action tonight, so if there's a bet you want to have, there's no official plays for tonight because obviously we're recording this for tomorrow's matches. But Sean, I'm sure, are you going to the tennis this evening? This afternoon?
As soon as I've done this podcast, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a video of a couple of matches, do a little Instagram or something, a couple of matches that I quite like, and a little chat about the conditions. So that will already have happened by the time people see it.
So I was just about to say do another one because we're trying to send people across to the Instagram account. Just do another one for the late games. So make sure you follow us.
I'll do several. I've been doing stuff during the day. So people, you need to follow that Instagram if you want to know what's going on at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden.
Yeah, at Because We Win is our handle. And Sean will give a little bit of a video after this podcast does, and then later on this evening he'll put a second one up. But the guys at Bet Rivers are getting these podcasts up pretty quick, so you may be able to catch that as well, and it might be relevant for today's action, which doesn't start for another couple of hours, so you might be lucky that these matches are on Friday though. Okay, let's start off with the first match. Fabian Marozsan up against Mpetshi Perricard. One of them probably wants it a little bit wants it slow. The other one wants it quick. The conditions here will probably suit Marozsan, and that is why he's the favourite. He's minus 124. Mpetshi Perricard is even money. The spread is 1.5, and the total. The overs bettors got the money yesterday, and they're not taking any chances today. Bet Rivers here with a quote of 24.5 on the over. We're always high with Mpetshi Perricard matches, but he's not been in good form. He got beat fairly easily by Medvedev in the tournament round of 16 in Dubai. And Indian Wells here, Marozsan has come through a match against Martinez already, and he looked good. He's had a bit of a luxury to play on the court, so he's got a feel for it. There has been money for Marozsan in the last hour or so. He is the favourite. I can imagine thinking that the conditions would suit him rather than Mpetshi Perricard here.
Yeah, this is another one where the odds have changed very quickly. I've only been up a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, and obviously I wrote these a little while ago. And we're recording now. When I initially looked at this, they were joint favourites. They're both minus 111. They couldn't split them, but the money has come for Marozsan now, and I can see why. He plays well at Indian Wells here. He's also got a better record on outdoor hard generally than Mpetshi Perricard. If we look at Marozsan's Indian Wells record, I know he's only played 4 or 5 matches, but an 80% win rate and the service points won and return points won total of 111 in those matches. I know it's a very small sample size, but it shows you that he's very comfortable in these conditions, which is it's a very good thing to have on your side, a guy that does like the conditions rather than players that kind of battle against them and kind of suffer them. So he plays well here. And Mpetshi Perricard has never played here at all. So not only is this his debut for this year, I don't believe he's ever played this tournament before. So it's totally new conditions for him. If we look at the last 12 months on outdoor hard at main level in all outdoor hard tournaments, again, it heavily favours Marozsan. 63% win rate for him and a service points won and return points won total of 102, which is very good. And Mpetshi Perricard doesn't do as well on outdoor hard as he does on indoor hard. Nowhere near as good. And Mpetshi, 40% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of just 95. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out why he's struggling. It's his return game, which is woeful, really. He returns statistics that are worse than Isner and Cressy at their best. That it's dreadful. He only wins 25% of return points, and he breaks serve 4.3% of the time, which is why obviously every match of his is priced up over 23.5, over 24.5, whatever it is. I'm not convinced that these conditions will suit him at all. For me, the first serve isn't that important here. Obviously, if he serves absolutely off the charts, then that gives him a chance of nicking it 7-6, 7-6 or something like that. But one break for Marozsan here, and he wins 42% of his return points at this tournament. One break should be enough for Marozsan here. I'm going to, because the odds have moved, I was going to take him on the money line at minus 111, but the odds have moved now. So I'm going to take that small handicap, minus 1.5 games, plus 107 Bet Rivers. And the reason for that is that, as I said, if he just breaks serve once, that will probably be enough to cover that handicap. I can't see Marozsan winning this and not covering a minus 1.5 game spread just because of the fact that Mpetshi Perricard barely ever breaks serve, as I said, 4.3% of the time. So in this instance, I think it's a decent prop to take the minus 1.5 games at plus 107 on Marozsan.
And we're going with Marozsan here, minus 1.5, a little bit better value at plus 107 than the money line, which has moved quite significantly in the last couple of hours to into minus 124. And judging by the line the market is going, I think there's going to be more money for Marozsan in the build-up for this match. If you want to take that minus 1.5 at plus 107, it may start at minus money. Head to the Bet Rivers website and on the app as well. And if you do place a bet on this Marozsan and Mpetshi Perricard match, you'll be able to watch the match live and bet on the match live on the Bet Rivers app. It'll be live streamed and on the tablet or your mobile, whichever device you want to choose from. And remember, these matches start at 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So this recording this on Thursday. You have all night to get your bets on. But these are moving markets. And when the lines come out, the first couple of hours of trading, they move very quickly. So make sure you get on nice and early. Our next match sees Roman Safiullin up against one of our picks to win the tournament. A big price pick, Lorenzo Musetti. Safiullin is a fairly heavy favourite here. He's minus 137 against the Italian, plus 110. Spread is 2.5. And total is 23.5. Musetti has had his injury problems since he got to the quarterfinals in Buenos Aires on clay. He had to pull out of that match against Martinez. This is his first appearance since then, which is almost just under a month he's been off the court. But he does have a 2-1 winning head-to-head record against Safiullin, with his last win last year in Miami, a 7-5, 6-1. Safiullin had a good win in the first round. He beat Riley Opelka, and he was 5-2 down in set number 1 against Opelka, and he come back and won 7-5. Have you ever seen Opelka lose from 5-2? I think it was 5-2 behind to
Not
lose
unless
that
I've
set.
backed him.
Quite amazing that he actually folded from that position. But that's what happened. Musetti here is our pick at plus 110. He's got a tricky match. The early money is for Safiullin, but minus 137. It's all about Lorenzo Musetti's fitness for me here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2-1 to Safiullin on the head-to-head, by the way. I don't know whether you've got
what have I got?
an additional
I've got it wrong. You are right. You are right. It's 2-1 to Safiullin, and Musetti won the last meeting in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, one of those was...
But one of it, Challenger, 2019.
Yeah, 2019. It's very, very irrelevant, really. I'm tempted to go in again on Musetti here at these odds. I'm surprised at this. If he's fit, which is obviously the key thing. I haven't seen him on the practice course, but that doesn't mean anything.
He's probably hiding from you and Lagan after he's bumping into him every opportunity in Croatia.
Well, he won't see Lagan here, but no. He will see me. He's not going to remember, is he? He sees like 1,000 people a day.
Depends how much you hounded him over there. It depends on what his experience of the Calverts were in Croatia. That's the problem.
I think he was fine with it, to be honest. Well, I don't care if he isn't. To be honest, I'd do it. I'd do it again anyway. If I see him, I might try and get a selfie. It's difficult to see everyone on the practice courts here because there's so many practice courts. It's like a dozen practice courts, so they're all hitting at the same time. I tried to watch a bit of Nick Kyrgios actually yesterday, but you couldn't get anywhere near it. I mean, there's so many people now at qualies. I've never been to the qualies before, but my friend Gil, who was at the tennis with me, not yesterday, but the day before, he was saying there's usually hardly anybody at qualies, but there was so many people there. I couldn't get anywhere near the Kyrgios court. It was absolutely packed. Same with Alcaraz yesterday. You couldn't get anywhere near him. It was getting really busy. But so I haven't seen Musetti, but if he is fit, and I'm prepared to wager that he is, as you say, he's not played since Valentine's Day, actually, by the look of this. So, a little while ago. If he's fit, these are very good odds. The slow conditions, they're not going to favour Roman Safiullin. We know he likes a quicker, slicker surface. I mean, Opelka was pretty poor again yesterday, as you said. Blew a big lead, which you wouldn't expect of him. But it just goes to show that the first serve isn't that important here at Indian Wells. Even Opelka 5-2 up couldn't see it out against Safiullin, who much prefers a quicker, slicker surface like a grass or a fast hard court. And Musetti, as you said, beat him in straight sets in quickish conditions on a slick, quickish hard court in Miami last year. Beat him in straight sets. Really good defensive display. He was just soaking up everything that Safiullin threw at him and returning it, with interest. Ended up winning, I think, 6-1 in the second set. There's nothing in it in terms of the last 12-month stats on outdoor hard at main level as far as service points won and return points won totals are concerned. They're both on 101, but Musetti, much better win rate. 59% of the matches he's won compared to just 44% for Safiullin. His win rate is very low considering his stats are pretty good. So there's no advantage at all for Safiullin on the outdoor hard main level stats. And you've got to bear in mind that the vast majority of those hard court matches that make up those stats for Safiullin would have been played in much quicker conditions, or certainly a bit quicker conditions than this. This is really slow. If you just take a look at what they've done on clay, I know they're not playing on clay, but it's relevant because this is slow, it's high bouncing. It's almost like a sort of clay court-ish. Safullin's record, 30% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 96. Which is kind of what you would expect from him. Musetti, 62% win rate and 104. Obviously, much better on that sort of surface. So we know Musetti's the better player in slow conditions than Safiullin. So, as you said before, it's all about whether Musetti is fit and ready. If he is, then that's a really good price at plus 110. If you're not on the outright already, you perhaps think it's a bit too fanciful at 150 to 1. Fair enough. If you're not on that, I would suggest you take Musetti to win this at plus 110.
Yeah, plus 110. It'd be interesting to see how the market goes with this one, because when players do have injury concerns, the market does sort of react to it, but pre-match as well. So have a look out when the market moves. At the moment, the early move is for Safiullin at the moment, but I think everyone's just a little bit cautious. But when the money comes a couple of hours before the match starts, that's the one you want to take a little bit of notice of. Let's move on to our third match, and this one sees a heavy favourite. And if you're looking at the head-to-heads, it will be a banker for many people. It's Alexander Zverev up against Tallon Griekspoor, who didn't look 100% fit against Kekmanovic last night. He come through in the end, amazingly, but he's a big underdog here up against Zverev. Zverev leads 6-1 in the head-to-head ratings here. Zverev is the favourite at -$4. The spread is 3.5, and the total here is 22.5. I think if there was a fit Griekspoor, and he's playing well Griekspoor actually, if it was a fit Griekspoor, I'd be interested in those over the 22.5, but I'm worried about this injury. You watched the match yesterday, Sean. What do you make of Griekspoor's physical condition?
I think he's fine.
All right.
I think he's fine. I mean, he looked anything but fine at the end of the first set against Kekmanovic. You could tell he wasn't moving well. What happened? I don't think it's the same issue that he had in Dubai. I think that was more of a leg, like upper leg sort of injury or whatever. But he just turned his ankle a little bit. Right. Kind of midway through the first set, he sort of stopped. I think he was reaching for a ball and he just went over slightly on his right ankle and kind of stopped. Immediately looked to the umpire, called for the trainer, was moving very gingerly for the rest of the first set, and that's when all the money obviously came for Kekmanovic. That's when he went down to -$8 in play when he won that first set tiebreak, and it did look like Griekspoor was going to walk to the net and kind of say thanks very much, I can't continue, but that didn't happen. And I guess he took some painkillers or something, or whatever. I think he said it just got better. I think it was just a little twist. I don't think it was anything more serious than that, because by the end of the match, he was playing brilliant, Griekspoor. Kecmanovic should have seen it out, given the condition that Griekspoor was in. He should have gone for it. I think if he'd have got the early break, it would have been absolute game over for Kecmanovic, but it didn't happen. He went very passive. A lot of these players, when they play against an opponent that's injured, it does mess with their mind a little bit. They change the way they've been playing. They kind of ease off the gas a little bit, and that's what happened to him. And Griekspoor ended up turning it around, and by the end he was playing some really, really good tennis. So, assuming that there's no after effects from that ankle injury, I think this will be a very good test for Zverev. I mean, we know, I've certainly mentioned before, excuse me, that Zverev doesn't, excuse me, bit early in the morning for my voice, that Zverev isn't keen on the conditions here. And Griekspoor, he pretty much always plays his best tennis against Sasha Zverev. They're head-to-head in the last couple of years. It's 104 to 96 in terms of the service points won and return points won totals in favour of Zverev. It's not massively overwhelming. It's a decent lead, but it's not incredibly dominant. If you look at how often they've held serves, Zverev 89% of the time against Griekspoor. Griekspoor's held 87% of the time. The last 3 opening sets on hard courts have gone to a tiebreak, including here last year in a match that I watched when Griekspoor was 5-3 up in the opening set, failed to serve it out. Then he was 5-2 up in the tiebreak, failed to serve that out as well, lost the set, obliterated his racket, as I remember. So he should have won that set, certainly. Zverev's record, as I've said, is not great here. 62% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of 101. He only holds serve here, Zverev, 80% of the time, versus his overall hardcourt average of 89%. So he's struggled here over the years. I don't think he's ever been past the quarterfinals here. Let me have a look. His record here certainly isn't great, whereas he's Zverev. Yeah, no, he's never made the semi-finals here. So it's a tournament where he has struggled with the conditions. He's not going to be confident, you wouldn't have thought, early on after his poor time that he had since the Australian Open over in the Golden Swing in Mexico. So I quite like the 2-1 about Griekspoor winning the first set here. The overs is kind of an obvious play in some ways. Over 22.5, that's kind of decent as well, but I prefer to take a bigger price. I think Griekspoor's got a chance here. Now that he's had those 3 sets, if he's fit, Zverev, I think, will be a slow starter here. So I think it's a chance for Griekspoor early on.
Yeah, Griekspoor set number one, one of about 28 different markets available on the Bet Rivers app and on the website as well. The pressure of Alexander Zverev as well, being the number 1 seed as well. He's never been number 1 seed in the Big 1,000 before, so it's a lot of pressure on him to deliver here, and not sort of, he doesn't have a good record, as you said too. I like the over games. I like all those games yesterday, 22.5. Only,
yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah, I think
it'd be a long one.
Yeah, with Griekspoor, that's the go-to bet. He's a big server, obviously. That's the go-to bet in the overs. Our final match we're going to discuss is Seyboth Wild, the Brazilian, up against Stefanos Tsitsipas, the recent winner over in Dubai. Seyboth Wild has had a real bad run of it. I mean, he hasn't had really any form. He got to the quarterfinals of Buenos Aires, but his form on the clay court in South America was very disappointing. But he had a good win in round 1 against Muller, an informed Muller. Won that in a close match. But Tsitsipas comes here now full of confidence after a big win over in Dubai. He's had a terrible season, but he turned it all on his head. And he comes here, and will it galvanise his form, or will he come here thinking that, he'll take a break? I don't know. We'll see what with Tsitsipas. He never can work out with Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas is a heavy favourite, minus 435. I can imagine being a very public play. Seyboth Wild is plus 330. Spread is 3.5. Total 22.5. Pretty much identical prices to the Zverev Griekspoor match. What do you think of this one? I mean, I know you've been quite, I wouldn't say negative, but sort of frustrated is the word by Tsitsipas in this season and last season. He's won a tournament now. Do you expect a little bit of a change? He changed his racket. He made changes to his game, and he won a tournament. Do you think he can now kick on and go a little bit better, or do you think it'll be, what a talented boy this is, but not delivering the goods?
I mean, I'm happy that he's done what I was kind of asking him to do. Not that he listens to me, obviously, but. I did say that
he might watch his podcast.
He might do, for all I know. I wouldn't have thought so, but you never know. It's what I said. He's got to change something, and he didn't really do anything for quite some considerable time. You would have thought that, it's not an outlandish idea to go for a slightly heavier racket, is it? I mean, it seems to have taken him an awfully long time to come up with that idea. But, it worked out for him. I'm not sold on this Tsitsipas comeback, to be honest. I think he was really, really fortunate to beat Berrettini in Dubai. Very fortunate. He was miles behind on the stats. Did absolutely nothing on return at all. I think he won about 20% of return points or something like that. Berrettini was 1 point away, I think, from serving for the match. He had a couple of break points. If he'd taken one of them, we wouldn't be talking about this Tsitsipas comeback now. His record here is not great at all, Tsitsipas, which is a little bit surprising considering it does play a little bit like clay. He's never, like Zverev, he's never really got a grip on the conditions here. His record here is 7-6 win-loss. Very similar to Zverev in terms of service points won and return points won total. It's the same, actually, 101. He's only made one quarter-final here. Quite surprising. You would expect him to be better in these conditions than he is, but some players a lot of players find it tough to play in Indian Wells. Clearly, he's one of them. Seyboth is one of those players that has enjoyed the conditions here. He's won 3 of his 4 main draw matches at Indian Wells. He was a little bit fortunate to beat Muller on Wednesday. I think he was 5-2 down in that final set tiebreak, if memory serves me correctly. But in his 4 main draw matches here, service points won and return points won, total of 104. And you would think that makes a bit of sense, given that it's slow, clay-like conditions, suits him. You would think they'd suit Tsitsipas, but he hasn't shown any of it yet. They played that once in Antwerp on indoor hard, where you would expect Tsitsipas to win, and he did, but it's only 7-5 in the third. He was a -$4 favourite, 1.25 favourite to win that match in Antwerp. Nicked it 7-5 in the third. And if you look at the return points won in that match, Tsitsipas, again, I've talked about it so many times, return points won 27%, which is pretty dreadful. Seyboth, not much better, 29%. But looking at the second serve points won that day on indoor hard, where you would expect, Seyboth to struggle a little bit, he actually won 63% of his second serve points that day against just 55% for Tsitsipas. So, Seyboth Wild is a player that, on his day, he can be very, very good indeed. He's beaten Medvedev. I think he beat him at the French Open. He lost in a 5th set to Rublev, I think, at the Australian Open, taking sets off the likes of Hurkacz. Played a lot of good players, and his game has held up very, very well. So, given that Tsitsipas doesn't return that well still, even though he managed to win that title in Dubai, given the fact that he also struggles here, hasn't played anything like his best tennis at Indian Wells, the obvious bet is over 22.5 games, which, when I looked at it earlier, was plus 102 with Bet Rivers.
It's still the price, plus 102. Surprising. I think the over games is the strategy in these tournaments. As I said at the top of the show, so many matches going over. And I think that these matches here today will go over, especially Zverev and Griekspoor, especially Tsitsipas, Seyboth, Wild. There are a load of action going on today as well. Head across to the Bet Rivers website. Lots of players you may not have heard of. Obviously, we've got a lot of players coming through the Challenger Tour, and one of them was Tristan Boyle, who cost us yesterday on our lean when he played Vukic. But these are players that have been highlighted on the Betting Weekly Challenger Tour guide that we gave at the start of the season. Now, that was available only to newsletter subscribers. So if you subscribe to the Betting Weekly Studios newsletter at bettingweeklystudios.com, you would have known all about these players. There's other players there who are featuring week in and week out. Colton Smith is another one on there. Leonard Tien is on there as well. Lerner Tien is on there as well. So these are players that you need to know about. So make sure you subscribe to the newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. Put your email address in and you'll get a newsletter every Monday. And we may be adding to that content as well. And if you want the newsletter and you want if you want the guide, the Challenger guide, just send a message on Twitter, on Instagram to us at Because We Win, and I'll make sure that you get it in your inbox. But you need to be able to subscribe to the newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. Lots of players coming through now that you may not have heard of, but there's a good guide there too. It's all about the players, all their records, very, very well put together. So that's very important you do that. Also, what's important is you make sure you hit that subscribe button. Lots of content coming your way. We just recorded Betting Weekly Premier League. We've got Betting Weekly Extra Time coming this week. Myself and Sean will be back with one final show this week before he heads home from Indian Wells. And Roy Giovanni and I have got bets on Betting Weekly WTA on the women's event that's going on here at the same time. Head across to Bet Rivers now for all the best tennis and soccer coverage. There's about 28 different markets on every single match on the men's and women's draw today, tomorrow, and as the tournament goes on with the final next Sunday. Sean, when are you heading back?
It's a good question. Sunday, I think. Yeah,
Sunday. We'll see if we can catch up with Sean before we go, maybe on Saturday. If not, we'll have to wait till next week. But it'd be nice to catch up with you, hopefully on the back of a winning day today. Enjoy the tennis.
Thank you. I'll be there in a couple of hours.
Before you go, what's the weather like? Is it good? We haven't mentioned the weather. Is it pretty good? Is it similar conditions?
For tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today, because anyone want to bet today? Is anything?
Yeah, today it was supposed to be. I've been out there having a little wander about India. It was supposed to be really windy today. I mean, it may still turn out to be the case because, as I said, the weather changes so fast here. The forecast is for quite a bit of wind. It's a bit cooler today. It's only going to be about sort of 18, 19 degrees today. So cooler, windier, according to the forecast. As far as tomorrow is concerned, let me just see. I've written this down somewhere. Yeah, again, a similar, not quite as windy tomorrow. Again, around about 20 degrees. So not particularly hot, quite cool, I suppose, by Indian Wells standards. But today, I think it's going to be, according to the weather, it's going to be a little bit tricky as far as the players are concerned with 20-mile-an-hour winds.
Well, enjoy the tennis. And remember, if you want any bets for today on Thursday, you can only get them from Sean exclusively on our Instagram page at Because We Win. Make sure you give that a follow. Sean will give you an update on the court conditions. The early matches, they start in a couple of hours, so I think you're going to get the early matches and the late matches today covered as well. But these are the matches for tomorrow. Before we go, Sean, just give us your official picks.
Just the one official pick today, which is Fabian Marozsan, -1.5 games on the handicap, plus 107 with Bet Rivers to beat Mpetshi Perricard.
So that's it for today. One official play, lots of leans as well. Good luck with your bets. Take care, and we'll speak to you all again very shortly.